Hello and welcome to the last episode in this series of UK Boating. Yes, that's right, we're leaving your screens for the summer so you can go and enjoy the inland waterways whilst it's nice and warm. But don't worry, we'll be back soon with more marina profiles, exciting new features and of course those great competition giveaways. But for now, without further ado, let's have a look at what's coming up in today's show. We take a cruise with the Angel Community Canal Boat Trust and meet the staff and moorers at Roydon Marina Village. But first, join us as we visit the London Canal Museum. Martin, thank you for meeting with us today. Perhaps we ought to start with finding out exactly where we are.
Well, surprisingly enough, we're just around the corner from King's Cross Station in central London. When we go outside to the back of the building, it's a very peaceful, tranquil scene, a waterway canal scene. And this building was built here in the 1860s next to the canal, next to Battlebridge Basin on the Regent's Canal, as a store for ice. And it was built by Carlo Gatti. Carlo Gatti, who came from the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland called the Ticino, and he came to make his fortune in London, and he did make his fortune in London. And one of the ways in which he made his fortune was by importing ice in large quantities, not from Switzerland, but from Norway.
Wow, quite incredible.
It is incredible to today's viewers, but that's how they provided ice for keeping food cold, for relief of inflammation in hospitals, and all the things that we use fridges and freezers for today. In the very early 1990s, a building was being sought for a canal museum in London, a part of the country which has a rich canal history but which didn't have a museum or heritage centre. And this building became available, and it's a historic building because of its history in the ice trade. It was built as a canal side building for a canal trade, or the ice trade, and it was thought and is relatively suitable for use as a museum, and it's very good that we are preserving that additional story here as well as telling the story of London's canals.
Absolutely. Shall we go inside and you can show me around?
Why
and tell
don't
me a
we
bit
go
more?
inside?
You lead the way, Martin. Thank you. So Martin, here we are inside this lovely building. Tell me a little bit more about how it's become the museum that it is now.
Well, in the 1980s, a group of people worked very hard to establish a museum in London, and eventually they managed to find a building that they could occupy. And then there was a fairly complicated deal struck to swap that building with this one, and there were some benefits attached to that. And this turned out to be a very good building because it is in itself a historic and interesting building that was built for the ice trade. So this eventually became the London Canal Museum and opened in 1992. So that's 20
Fantastic.
years ago.
Well, I'm glad they found this building and they've managed to make it work. Tell us a little bit more about the group that opened it all up and who runs it now.
Well, as now, it was a group of voluntary people, canal enthusiasts, people who believed that there should be a museum in London to the inland waterways. And they worked by meeting and campaigning and fundraising and doing the negotiations that were necessary to establish the building. Now it's very much the same in that it's run by a board of trustees who are all volunteers. We do have two part-time staff here, our education officer and our volunteering manager, a personnel officer, and they're paid part-time staff, but apart from that everyone here is doing it on a voluntary basis, and we all do it because we believe in the value of having a canal museum in London and the merits of it.
Absolutely. Now you touched on fundraising there. I'd love to know a little bit more about how it is all funded.
Well, we don't get any support from the taxpayer, that's the first thing to say, or from the local authority. So the sources of income are mainly the admission charges that people pay when they come in. We offer the building for private hire, and we have a fairly thriving business in hosting all kinds of private events ranging from committee meetings to wedding receptions. And that brings in a good part of the income. We also, unusually for a museum, we have some mooring fee income because we have some historic rights to moorings in the canal outside. And of course, like all good museums, we have a museum shop, and that brings in some money as well.
Yeah, so you've got quite good setup and all sorts of bits going on to help with the funding by the sounds of it. Tell us a little bit about a couple of the exhibits you've got here. Tell me a little bit about this lovely old boat.
We're standing in front of the Coronis, which is a 1930s butty. Now, a butty, as many of your viewers will know, is an unpowered boat that's towed behind another boat. And this was a butty, or is a butty, the hull is original, but the cabin is a reconstruction. But it's very much an authentic reconstruction of what a cabin would be like. So we're able to take school groups inside and they say, "Where's the shower?" And they say, "Why isn't there a toilet?" And they're incredulous at the tiny little space in which people live in those days.
Yeah.
Very small space where a whole family would have lived and been brought up and given birth and died and everything else. It is very educational to teach today's generation how a past generation used to live.
Absolutely, it's a real eye-opener for them and a bit of a circle of life going on there.
It certainly is.
And I know you might have a special something outside.
And we've got outside one of our other favourite boat, which is our Bantam tug, Bantam 4, which was launched in 1950, so not quite as old as this one, but was built in London.
Let's go and have a look at that one, shall we?
Let's go and look.
Thank you. So Martin, here we are on this lovely old boat. Do tell me a little bit more. Right,
well this is Bantam 4, which is the second boat that we have in the museum, and this one is floating, unlike the other one inside. And Bantam 4 is a canal maintenance tug. It's a pusher tug, which is quite unusual. It's designed to push a barge along that carries a cargo or carries spoil from maintenance work, and most of these tugs were built to be used for canal maintenance. This one spent some of its time in a gravel pit and also spent some time on maintenance work on the Kennington Avon Canal. But it was built here in London at Brentford.
So, I mean, she's a special thing. Have you had to restore her or anything?
We haven't had to restore it fully, but we have had to do quite a bit of maintenance over the years. Boats don't last without maintenance, and we do maintain this boat, and we maintain it in working order.
It's good to know she's in such good hands. Now I'd love to go and find out a bit more about your other exhibits and the volunteers. Is there someone I can go and have a chat with?
Yes, I believe our volunteer Phil is standing around waiting for you.
Lovely, thank you. Phil, thanks for meeting with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your role here?
Well, I'm a volunteer along with everyone else who runs the museum, yes.
And how did you get into it? Where did your interest lie?
Well, I've had a long sort of lifetime interest really in canals, and when I retired I saw an advertisement for the museum, came along, and I've been doing it now for the last 15-18 months.
Well, it certainly does
thoroughly enjoying it.
Yeah, it seems to be a lovely place to work, definitely.
Yes, it is, yeah.
We've seen a couple of the exhibits already. Can you take me through what we're looking at here as well?
Well, this is our exhibition on horses, because in the days of the canals originally, the horse provided the main motive power for towing the narrowboats. And also in this part of London, they were used extensively on the railways, and of course they also provided a lot of power for horses and carts on the roads as well. So there were a lot of horses in this particular area of London. So
it's really bringing your attention to that bit of history, which is fantastic.
So, yes.
Now on my way in, something caught my eye, which I think I'm going to be quite impressed with. A bit of a chug-chug engine over there, is there?
Yes, yes.
What is it?
That's the Bollinger semi-diesel, which was the original diesel engine for the narrowboats when horses started to be sort of phased out, yes.
Let's go and have a peek, can we?
Okay.
Thanks, Phil. So Phil, tell me a little bit about the story behind the museum getting this lovely piece of machinery.
Well, as far as I understand, it was actually purchased last year from a boatyard in the Midlands, and they'd sort of reconditioned it and painted it up in the way that you see here, and then we had to arrange with a specialist firm of removers to get it to us here in London, and particularly up the ramp onto the first floor here.
Bit of a mission, but I'm glad they've done it. So
yes.
This is going to become a key feature, I guess, of
yes,
the museum.
Yes, it is, and I think the plan is to turn it into a feature with some sound as well of the old Bollinger engine, sort of pom-pomming along the canal, yes.
Fantastic. Well, I'll certainly be back for that, and the whole place has just been so interesting. Thanks for having us along. Now I'm really looking forward to our next feature because I'm going to get to take a cruise whilst learning about the Angel Community Canal Boat Trust. Let's go and meet John. John, thank you so much for having us along today. Can you tell us a little bit about the trust that you and this lovely boat belong to?
Yes, a pleasure. We're the Angel Community Canal Boat Trust, and we're part of the NCBA, National Community Boats Association. Our trust was started over 30 years ago in 1976 by a local lady called Crystal Hale. She lived on the side of the canal and owned a narrowboat, and she was out cruising one day, and she, as occasionally happens now, but the things were thrown at her and names were called, and she pulled up alongside these youths and said, instead of doing that, why don't you come for a trip on the boat? It's not something we could do these days, but however, she did, and she took them on the boat, and they thoroughly enjoyed themselves. And then she thought, well, this is a good idea. Why not try and organise a community boat or a boat to do this regularly? Which she did, and we've been going strong now for over 30 years.
Brilliant, what a wonderful initiative. She looks lovely. I know you're the skipper and the helmsman. Shall we have a trip?
Yeah, please do. Come on board.
Thank you. So John, tell me a little bit more about the trust and who runs it and how it's managed.
We have a group of trustees that run it. There's 6 of them. Some of them are fairly hands-on. We've got some trained skippers amongst them.
Right.
But we only have the one full-time or paid member of staff. So we do rely an awful lot on volunteers, and we're always looking for new volunteers.
I know that feeling, yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the activities and the actual trips that take place.
Well, we are what they call a community resource, and so we deal with any community groups, local community groups, and our age range, I think the youngest we've had on board has been a couple of weeks, and the oldest has been about 90-something.
Okay, so pretty much anyone.
Anyone that we can get on the boat.
And what do you do in terms of, is it day trips or longer trips?
We do day trips, we do weekend trips, and we do 5 to 7 day trips.
Okay.
So we cover the whole range, and the idea of the boat is to make these trips affordable for everybody. So we try to be a little bit flexible with our pricing, so that we try not to turn anybody down because they can't afford to come on the boat.
And what's the key point of the trips? Is it sort of boat management or interaction, or?
Well, it depends on the groups. When we're going away for weekends and weeks, the passengers learn to live together, work as a team. They can work the boat, they help with the locks. So it really gives them a new experience, and a lot of them it's the first time they've been outside London or been on holiday, so it's quite rewarding at the end of the day, and they make new friends. So it gives a good bonding experience, and it gives them a chance to get people that wouldn't even probably get outside the front doors out and about on the canal.
Absolutely. John, we've had a wonderful cruise, thank you so much. Are we happy just to moor up in here and have a chat at the front of the boat?
Yes, of course we can.
Lovely, thank you. So John, we're having a bit of a break, and here we are on the bow of your lovely boat. Tell me a bit more about her design and makeup.
Yeah, she's the second purpose-built boat that we've had. She's about 12 years old now, built in 2000, and we had somebody that very kindly sponsored most of that building costs. She's a very practical design, because we need to get 12. We can carry 12 passengers on board. In terms of design, there's not far you can go in terms of being any too fancy inside. She's very friendly boat. You've got to get on with each other when you're on the boat, and you've got to learn to work as a team, which is part of what the experience is about.
Absolutely.
And when we're away for a week, we do what is an in-house course, which is called a boat certificate. The passengers get a book full of tick boxes, and really all it is things that you're doing automatically, like working together, working as a team, working the boat, learning how to tie the ropes, and at the end of the time they ticked all the boxes, and we present them with a certificate to show that they've completed it, and a little bit of a memento of the trip as well.
Yeah, I think that's great. It's a real sense of achievement then for them. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So take me through her practicality from the back through to the front. What have we got?
Well, we've got 3 sets of 4 berths, and they're split into 3 sections, and then we've got 2 loos, which are most important, and a shower on board. So, and then we've got a full kitchen cooking facility, galley I think is the term, cooking facilities on board, and we have seating for 12. So she's very practical, and although the design is very basic, it works for us.
Yeah, it works for your groups.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, I think we've probably had a break for long enough, so should we get cruising again?
Why not?
Thank you. So John, tell us a little bit about the funding of the trust and what the future looks like.
The future is very uncertain, like with most of these groups, and the local or the government cuts are affecting everybody. So really we don't know what the future holds for us, so we're always looking for new ideas for fundraising, people with fundraising skills, and people to sponsor us. So if anybody wants to help us, we'd be more than happy to talk to them.
Fantastic. So we're heading back home, John. I know she's your baby, but dare I ask for a quick go at helming?
She's all yours.
Thank you very much. Well, that's all we've got time for in part 1 of UK Boating. But join us again after the break when we'll be visiting the staff and moorers at Royder Marina Village.